As the top court hears the final arguments on a batch of petitions that now seek legalization of same-sex marriage, the Supreme Court today disagreed with the centre's viewpoint and said that the government had no data to show that same-sex marriage was an urban elite concept. The court today said that the state cannot discriminate against an individual on the basis of a characteristic over which they have no control. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud observed that the innate characteristics counter the urban elitist concept, and it was being called as urbane because more people were coming out of the closet. The centre in its application earlier had claimed that the views presented by petitioners were urban and elitist and that only a competent legislature could decide on the issue. The centre also today filed a fresh affidavit in the Supreme Court and said that it had started consultation process with states on the matter as they remain vital stakeholders. The centre also said that all states and UTs should be made a party to the case, and first the process of consultation should be allowed to finish before the court carries out any adjudication. Another important aspect that is being debated in the top is that of gender neutrality. The Supreme Court on Tuesday had cut short the government's argument that genitals decide whether a person is a man or a woman. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud said that there was absolutely no concept of a man or an absolute concept of a woman, and that gender was a far more complex construct than only one's genitals. To this, the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, representing the government, protesting, saying that a biological man means a biological man, and that cannot be a notion. First, listen in to that entire exchange in court, which has really set the cat among the pigeons, because now it's not just about gay marriage being elite, but about whether the entire concept of gender itself is going to undergo an overhaul.
A relationship between a biological male and a biological female, including special marriages.
But Mr. Solicitor, there's a very important value judgment which you are making, that the very notion of a biological man is absolute, or that the notion of a biological woman is also an absolute notion.
Never change.
Which is incorrect.
Biological man means biological man. It's not a question of notion.
Possibilities of rights.
Yes, of course it is.
None of us.
There is no absolute concept of a man or an absolute concept of a woman at all. That's the argument in a broader concept.
Biological man, my lord, means man only. It means, my lord, biological man.
Biological man is not a definition of what your genitals are. It's far more complex. That's the point.
We stop having rights if we are not a biological.
So even when the Special Marriage Act says man and woman, the very notion of a man and a notion of a woman is not an absolute, based on what genitals you have.
Lord, biological man means genitals you have. Lord, I didn't want to use that expression. Lord, your lordships will have to examine whether marriage is a fundamental right. Right to marry, divorce the law is a fundamental.
So is this a wide-ranging concept, that of same-sex marriage, or is it elite? Is there really any data, any anecdotal evidence even to suggest the same? And are we at a cusp in history where the very idea of your gender is going to be redefined in this case? Subhash Jha, advocate, joining us, along with Naveen Chomal, advocate, Dr. Chinu Agarwal, director of Feeling Minds, and Neil Pate, senior journalist. First, tell me, Subhash Jha, is there any evidence to show that this is only elite concept and is not more widespread than we know? Mr. Jha, you've muted yourself. Go on, please.
Padmaja, I will come to the elite concept a little later. But let me tell you, this very idea of the petition being heard by a constitution bench on this frivolous and vexatious issue of there being marriage between two sexes itself is so flawed. And I'm surprised that the Supreme Court, which is already having hundreds and thousands of such important matters, is being heard by a constitution bench. Can there be a matter of debate that there could be a marriage between two sexes? So horrendous, this kind of an approach itself. I'm really ashamed that such matters are being heard by...
Well, neither you can help it now nor I can help it. And with the greatest of respect, while it may seem vexatious and frivolous to you, it concerns the lives of several 100,000 people. So please, let's talk about the idea of why you would think it is elite.
No, I don't think, forget about elite. I said that this is horrendous idea itself. This reflects sick mindset. How can you have marriages between two sexes? This very concept itself is so flawed, so
Why
horrendous.
exactly?
Now tell me, Padmaja, can there be marriage between two sexes? Now, this world would mean what? The society would mean what? Procreation of children. How are you going to have children? How you are going to have children after children? So the world should come to a standstill. I mean, what kind of mindset is this? See, ultimately, Padmaja, it boils down to what? It boils down to possibly gay sex.
Yes.
Nothing more than that. So something which may be rampant, or which may be in a hiding place or place in secrecy.
So
But
again,
you
sir,
can't legalize it.
it could be argued that your point of view is an elite point of view. For a large section of people, marriage is more about sex, is less about sex and more about everything else that marriage entails. You might be thinking of marriage purely as one that involves sex. So that is an elite and a minority point of view. And also vexatious.
Not minority. Tell me, Padmaja, are we not going to have procreation of children? Procreation. Giving birth to, can a man give birth to a person, to a child?
Okay, let me have Neil Pate respond to that.
Similarly,
It's not only elite and a micro minority point of view, but it's also ridiculous, vexatious, says Mr. Jha. Neil Pate.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I mean, I'm just completely flabbergasted by the language that this gentleman has used. I mean, I'm part and parcel of this country, and I'm. No, 1 minute. Hello.
Yes.
If you
Mr.
let me
Chomal,
speak.
let's not heckle each other. Let's have everyone put forward their point of view, however individualist it may be. Let's have everyone have their say. Go on, Neil.
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, go on.
Because I didn't interrupt when he was speaking. Okay. The point is to say that same-sex relationships are absolutely only for sex is a little frivolous. That statement itself is frivolous. And to say it's a very elitist and urban kind of a view, I mean, I beg to differ on that. I mean, we have some absolutely stunning individuals in this country. For example, Duti Chand, as I said yesterday, the ace sprinter, she's done the entire nation proud. I mean, so do you mean to say that someone who's from a small village in Odisha doesn't have the same aspirations, doesn't feel that she or he should be with their partner? I mean, what is this? I mean, and when we're talking of procreation, I mean, life itself, nature builds you in a way to love one another. I mean, to sit on a moral pedestal and make these kind of judgments, sorry, I think that is just not done. So I rest my point here, and I'd let the court decide what is best.
Mr. Chomal, there are numerous examples of people being gay in rural India, but the very idea that is being foisted, that this is an elite concept, that is an unnatural concept, stops them from coming out of the closet. Maybe that's the reason why you don't know of enough openly homosexual couples in villages.
Padmaja, the concept or the aspect of being in a rural area or an urban area is a misconceived goalpost being set by the Chief Justice of India. That is not the topic. I fully endorse what my senior friend Mr. Subhash has been saying, and he's not confining the relation between two persons of the same sex only for the.
Sir, here's the point. Do you believe it is widespread in India, or is it elite? Is it widespread, or is it a micro minority?
That should not. We should not confine our discussion only to that aspect.
I have a very simple and a narrow discussion that I want to do. Is it widespread in India, or is it not widespread in India? If it is widespread in India, then how can you say it's unnatural? If n number of people are doing it willingly, then how can it be unnatural and vexatious?
No. It is a minuscule minority.
How do you know? Do you have data available?
I know.
Do you have data available?
What is the data?
Please furnish the data.
Padmaja, am I not living in the society? Do I not know
Sir, we have to talk in terms of data. We cannot have sweeping generalizations saying, oh, this is a minuscule minority. By the way, going by that same logic, Parsis are a minuscule minority in the country. Then they should have no rights.
But they are not perverts. They are not perverts.
Okay, first of all, let's watch out for our language. Whether you are a minority or a minuscule minority or a hyper minuscule minority does not decide your rights in this country.
No. If they are spreading like a gangrene in the society, like a cancer in the society.
Okay, again, do you have any substantive, factual things to talk about, sir? Or are we just going to be hurling adjectives at each other?
No, not what hurling adjectives. See, the institution of marriage is a very pious institution. See, as per Hindu Dharma, for example, marriage is a union of a man and a woman for doing a pious activities all throughout the life.
Okay. Sir, again, let's not stand on piety. I want to again draw you back to your original assertion, saying that this is a minuscule minority. One, do you have any data to support that claim?
Yes. I'm living in the society. Even all of you will support my view that it's a very minuscule minority, and
I don't support your view.
It's a perversity. You may not be supporting the view, but the data is there.
But just where is the data? Show me the data.
See, I may not be having the exact data, but I'm sure 1 in 1,000.
Then how are you making a claim as a lawyer when you don't have any data to support that claim?
So, Padmaja, do you mean to say something illogical that every second person is a gay?
I don't know. Maybe they are.
You don't know.
Maybe they are.
I know.
How do you know?
You may not be knowing.
How do you know? How do you know? How do you know every second person is not gay?
I am living in society for 50 years.
I am also living in society. I can give an equally generic kind of an assertion that I think every second person is gay. You are saying nobody is gay. Neither of us have data to support it. So let's actually go across to somebody. Let's actually go across to somebody who is working with people who are in the gay community. Dr. Chinu Agarwal, have you found any example? Because Mr. Cho says there is hardly anyone who is gay, especially in rural India, nobody is gay. Have you ever found any such examples?
See, homosexuality is universal. We have data which says that 3 to 10% of the population is having a sexual orientation for attraction towards the same sex. And the reason that they don't come out is because of fear of discrimination, because of all these, attitudes that we are seeing over here, which is so unfortunate. And really, this is a clarion call for people like us to come out and educate people about this phenomenon. And I'm so surprised that people who are advocates and lawyers have not done their homework. They have not sat and studied the scientific studies. I'm so sad that a person of the community is there in the panel and they're using such language, which is so discriminatory. I'm sad, I'm unfortunate, and I apologize to Neil, who is on the panel, and all the people of this community who is being called with all these names like perverts and horrendous and these words. And Padmaja, I have not met one. I have met many people since last 20 years of my practice, and I can quote one such example who is my childhood friend who went through something which is, akin to suicide in his own life because of these attitudes which are prevalent and which are being shown on the panel right now.
Mr. Subhash Jha. So here's the thing, we need to set a few things straight. The whole debate about whether it is a perversion or it's unnatural, that is not even on the table anymore, because according to the Supreme Court of India, homosexual relationships are legal in our country. So now it's not for you to decide whether it is legal or whether it is a perversion. It is perfectly legal, it is allowed, it is lawful. The thing is that now they are asking for basic rights which are available to the rest of the population, and that cannot be taken away just by saying, oh, you are an elite community, you can live together, but you cannot get married. That's the issue. And as Dr. Chinu Agarwal is saying, 10% of the population has homosexual tendencies. So how can you deny such a large percentage of the population the right to marry.
You cannot.
Padmaja, let me tell you, let me answer to this. You asked Mr. Chomal a question, and which is a pertinent question as to does he have any data as to how many percentage of people in the society are homosexual or otherwise. And Mr. Chomal rightly, perhaps he did not have, nor I have, the question which I am posing to myself, that does anyone has any data of this sexuality? Now, for example, I give you, in a country of 140 crores of population that we have, maybe about 4 or 5% may be criminals. They may be doing crimes.
Homosexuality is not a crime.
Are we going to legalize all of them?
So that's a false comparison, because homosexuality is not a crime.
No, it is. In my assessment, it is in my assessment. This is sickness.
Sir, with the greatest of respect, your assessment doesn't matter, because according to the law of the land, it is not a crime.
No, what law? I mean, you are talking about 377 having been struck down from the statute book by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
That judgment was also flawed judgment.
That doesn't matter,
and
sir.
so
That doesn't
also
matter.
the judgment on Sabrimala.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think about that judgment. The fact is that as of today,
it has been happening in this country systematically.
It's a law. So we can't reinvent the wheel.
Systematically. We as a lawyer, we have a right to interpret the law.
But you cannot reinterpret a judgment that has been given by the Supreme Court of the country.
We can say for the reasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this judgment is a flawed judgment.
But sir, it doesn't matter what you think about a judgment. That judgment decides what is legal in our country and what is...
Our problem, Padmaja, in this country is that our judges, unfortunately, have lost sight of the fact that they are required to have knowledge also of our dharma, our shastra, our Purans, our Ved. Nothing of that sort.
Just by the way, that argument was also raised in court. Do you want to respond to that, Neil? Dharma and Shastra. Which is actually, before you respond, Neil, I also, as somebody who believes in Dharma and Shastra, I think it is very, very unfortunate that you would bring in the Dharma and Shastra argument, sir. You're doing a great disservice to Dharma and Shastra. But anyway, Neil, go on, respond. It's sad that people who are radicals in every religion try and hide behind religion and say Dharma and Shastra doesn't allow it. Nowhere does your Dharma and Shastra say that homosexuality is a crime or a perversion. You're doing disservice. But anyway, that's entirely my point of view. Go on, Neil, go on.
Yeah, can I come in, Padmaja?
Yes, go on. Neil, go on.
Yeah. The thing is, I just feel so sorry with someone who has this kind of skewed mentality, I mean, it's just focused on sex and nothing else, which I feel in some way is a pervert mindset. To sit on a moral pedestal and judge a woman or a man or the huge spectrum that we have under the LGBTQI, and to call them perverse, to call them, these kind of names, which I don't even feel need to be uttered in a panel like this. That is perversion and a very, very, very abysmal kind of, mindset, I feel. And that is a big problem in our country, because you have these kind of people sitting and judging others. That is exactly what the Supreme Court doesn't want, I feel. And they are doing a fantastic job where they're actually trying to sensitize people and giving stress on gender and, biases that we have in our society. They're trying to remove those. That's what is important. And I'd like to add over here, since they don't have the data, I mean, to make sweeping statements is very easy, but I think one needs to do his or her homework well. I'd like to mention over here that as per the latest global estimates today, as we are speaking, India is the country with the largest population in the world. And even if you take 10% of that population as LGBTQI, the difference.
Your estimate is wrong.
Can I speak?
Please let him finish. Go on. Yes.
Let me finish. I haven't interrupted you one bit when you went on and on with your tirade. So please bear with me. So even 10%, if we say, as per the latest, and the last survey was done in 2012. We are in 2023. So it's almost 135 million people. I mean, and to use these kind of cuss words, I mean, which is ridiculous, yeah? I mean, really, I feel sad, when people use these kind of words on a national platform.
So here's the thing,
And-
you know, to try and categorize anyone's life choices an elite and to use that to deny them the basic rights does not fly, for the simple reason that our constitution guarantees every single one of us our basic human rights, irrespective of whether we are elite or whether we are mundane. We'll keep a close eye on what happens in the Supreme Court. For the time being, though, thanks very much, all gentlemen and Dr. Chino Agarwal, for joining me. And let's also have a basic level of respect for each other and our life's choices. That's it then from me on this edition of The Nation Wants to Know. I will see you next at 10 p.m. on the News Hour agenda, where we'll be taking a closer look at why there is a perception of homosexuality and same-sex marriage being an elite concept, of it being a micro-minority. Is there really any truth to that? We'll delve into that